Put the gun down!
I'm scared! 오빠한테 지금 맞아? Dante, talk behind! Uncle Dante? Help!
What? Who's this?
They took me, I'm scared!
Where are you? Stay calm. Vincent's daughter?
My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the crumpled photo. Behind me, Mom's shop was in chaos. Broken glass everywhere, men shouting about money we didn't have. I was 7 years old, and I just dialed the only number Dad ever told me to call in an emergency. When the deep, scary voice answered, I didn't know I was talking to the most dangerous man in the city. I just knew I needed help. Please, sir, I whispered into the phone, my voice cracking. My daddy said you'd help us. He said if anything bad happened, I should call this number. There was a long silence, then the man's voice turned cold as ice. Kid, I don't know what scam you're running, but you picked the wrong person, too. My daddy's name was Vincent Clarke, I interrupted, tears streaming down my face, and he said you were his best friend. The phone went completely silent. So silent, I thought he'd hung up. Then I heard something I'll never forget, the sound of a grown man's voice breaking. Vincent's daughter? My name is Sophie Clarke, and this is the true story of how one phone call when I was 7 years old unraveled secrets, exposed lies, and brought a powerful mafia boss to his knees. This is about loyalty, brotherhood, and the promise a dying man made to protect his family, even from beyond the grave. What I didn't know that day, standing in my mother's destroyed shop with a stranger's number clutched in my small hands, was that I was about to discover the truth about my father's death. And that truth would change everything. I remember the exact moment everything fell apart. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was helping Mom arrange flowers in her little shop. The bell above the door chimed, but it wasn't the friendly sound it usually made. This time, it sounded like a warning. 3 men walked in. Big men with cold eyes and expensive suits that didn't match the kindness in their faces, because there was no kindness there at all. The leader, a man with a scar running down his cheek, didn't even pretend to be polite. Mrs. Clarke, your payment is 3 weeks overdue. Mr. Kozlov doesn't appreciate being kept waiting. Mom's face went pale. She stepped in front of me, like she could shield me from whatever was coming. I told your boss I need more time. My husband died 6 months ago. I'm doing my best. Your best isn't good enough. The scarred man picked up one of Mom's beautiful vases and dropped it. The crash made me jump. You have until Friday, $30,000, or we take the shop. And maybe more than that. They left, but the threat hung in the air like smoke. Mom sank into a chair, her whole body shaking. I'd never seen her cry before, not even at Dad's funeral. But now, tears rolled down her cheeks in silence. That's when I remembered the photo album. Dad had given it to me 2 weeks before he died. I was only 6 then, but I remember every word he said. Sophie, my little flower, he'd whispered, his voice weak from the sickness eating him alive. Inside this album is a very special photo. If anything ever happens to me, if you and Mommy ever need help, there's a phone number written on the back. You call that number, okay? You call, and help will come. But Daddy, you're going to get better, I'd said, holding his thin hand. He'd smiled, but it was the saddest smile I'd ever seen. Just promise me, Sophie. Promise you'll remember. I'd promised. And now, standing in that broken shop with Mom crying and glass everywhere, I remembered. I ran upstairs to our small apartment above the shop. The photo album was hidden under my bed, wrapped in one of Dad's old shirts that still smelled like his cologne. My hands trembled as I flipped through the pages. There, a picture of Dad and another man, both younger, both smiling. They had their arms around each other like brothers. On the back, written in Dad's messy handwriting, Dante Romano, 555-0147. Always. I didn't know who Dante Romano was. I didn't know what always meant, but Dad had never broken a promise to me, so I picked up Mom's phone and dialed. The phone rang 3 times, each ring felt like an eternity. Then a deep voice answered, sharp and impatient. Who is this? I almost hung up. The voice scared me, but I thought about Mom crying downstairs, about the broken vases, about the bad men coming back on Friday. Hello, I stammered. Is this Mr. Dante Romano? There was a pause. Background noise. Voices, music, the clink of glasses. Kid, how did you get this number? My daddy gave it to me. He said if we ever needed help. Listen, kid. The voice turned hard. I don't know what scam you're running or who put you up to this, but you picked the wrong number. Lose it. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, tears blurring my vision. He'd hung up on me. Dad's friend, the one who was supposed to help, had just hung up on me, but I couldn't give up. Not with Mom downstairs crying, not with those men coming back. I dialed again. This time the phone barely rang once before he answered. I told you to lose this. Please, the word burst out of me. Please, sir, I'm not a scammer. I don't even know what that means. My daddy died and left me this number, and bad men came to our shop and hurt my mommy, and I don't know what else to do. Silence. Then a different voice in the background. Boss, just talk to the kid. What's it gonna hurt? The man, Dante, I'd learn later, sighed heavily. All right, kid. You got 30 seconds. Talk. The words tumbled out of me in a rush. My daddy's name was Vincent Clarke. He died 6 months ago. Before he died, he gave me a photo album and said if me and Mommy ever had problems, I should call the number on the back of his favorite picture. Your number. And now these bad men came and broke Mommy's shop and said we owe them $30,000 and they're coming back Friday and Mommy's crying and I don't know what to do, and Daddy said you'd help us. Stop. The single word cut through my rambling. What did you say your father's name was? Vincent Clarke. I wiped my nose with the back of my hand. Did you know him? There's a picture of you and him together. You both look really happy. The silence that followed was different from before. It felt heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. How did Vincent die? The voice had changed completely. It was softer now, but there was something dangerous underneath, like a growl. The doctor said it was cancer, I whispered. But that's not really how he died. Explain. I took a shaky breath. Daddy was really sick. The cancer was bad. But he didn't want Mommy to use all our money on hospitals and medicine. He said he didn't want to be a burden. So one night, he went to the tallest building downtown and I couldn't finish. Even 6 months later, I couldn't say the words. And he jumped, Dante finished for me, his voice barely above a whisper. How did you know? There was a long pause. I could hear Dante breathing on the other end of the line. When he finally spoke, his voice was thick with something I couldn't identify. Anger, grief, regret, all mixed together. Because Vincent was my brother. Not by blood, but in every way that mattered. We grew up together. We built our lives together. And when he got sick, Dante's voice cracked. I offered to pay for everything, every treatment, every medication, the best doctors in the world. But he refused. He said he wouldn't let me waste money on a dead man walking. I clutched the phone tighter. You're really Daddy's friend? His best friend? I was more than his friend, kid. I was his family, and he was mine. Dante's voice hardened. Now tell me exactly what happened to your mother's shop. Every detail. So I did. I told him about the 3 men, about the scarred leader, about Mr. Kozlov, and the $30,000, and the threat to take more than just the shop. With every word, I could feel Dante's anger growing through the phone. It was like talking to a volcano about to erupt. Sophie, he said when I finished, and hearing him say my name sent chills down my spine because I hadn't told him what it was. I need you to listen very carefully. Can you do that for me? Yes, sir. Those men who came to your mother's shop. They're bad people. Very bad people. But you don't have to be scared of them anymore. Do you know why? Why? Because I'm worse. I didn't understand what he meant then. I was 7. All I knew was that Dante's voice had gone from warm to cold in a heartbeat, and somehow that made me feel safer. I need you to do something for me, Sophie, Dante continued. I need you to give the phone to your mother. Can you do that? I nodded, then realized he couldn't see me. Okay, but you'll help us, right? You'll make the bad men go away? Sophie, his voice softened. Your father was the best man I ever knew. He saved my life more times than I can count. And when he asked me to watch over you and your mother if anything happened to him, I made him a promise. A promise I failed to keep because I was too angry at him for pushing me away when he got sick. Dante took a breath. But I'm keeping that promise now. You and your mother will never have to worry about money again. You'll never have to be afraid again. I swear it on your father's grave. Something in his voice told me he meant every word. I ran downstairs with the phone clutched in my hand. Mom was still in her chair, surrounded by broken glass and wilted flowers. "Mommy," I said softly. "There's a man on the phone. He says he knew Daddy. He says he's going to help us." Mom looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "Sophie, sweetheart, we can't trust strangers." "He's not a stranger." I held out the phone. "Daddy told me to call him. His name is Dante Romano." The color drained from Mom's face. "Dante?" She took the phone with shaking hands. "Hello?" I couldn't hear what Dante said, but I watched Mom's expression change from fear to shock to something like hope. "You can't be serious," Mom whispered into the phone. "Dante, that's too much. I can't accept." She stopped, listened. But Vincent wouldn't want. She stopped again. This time, tears started flowing down her cheeks, but they were different from before. Not sad tears. Something else. "Thank you," she finally whispered. "Thank you so much." She handed me back the phone. "Sophie, honey, Mr. Romano wants to talk to you again." I put the phone to my ear. "Hello? Sophie, I'm going to come visit you and your mother tomorrow. But tonight, I'm sending some friends to watch your shop. Good friends. They're going to make sure nothing bad happens before I get there, okay? Okay? And Sophie, the men who scared you today, they won't be back. Not Friday, not ever. I'm going to make sure of that." There was something final in his voice. Something that made me shiver. "How?" I asked. Dante was quiet for a moment. "Let's just say I'm going to have a very important conversation with Mr. Kozlov. By the time I'm done, he's going to wish he never heard the name Vincent Clarke." That night, I watched from my bedroom window as 2 black cars pulled up outside the shop. 4 men in dark suits got out. They didn't come inside. They just stood there, watching, guarding. For the first time since Dad died, I felt safe. Dante Romano arrived exactly at noon the next day. I watched from the window as a black limousine pulled up, the fanciest car I'd ever seen. The door opened, and out stepped a man who looked like he'd walked straight out of a movie. He was tall, probably in his late 30s, with dark hair slicked back and a suit that probably cost more than our entire shop. But it was his eyes that caught my attention. They were dark, almost black, and they held a sadness that reminded me of Dad's eyes in those final weeks. Mom had spent all morning cleaning up the shop, trying to make it presentable. When the bell chimed and Dante walked in, she froze. "Angela," Dante said softly. "It's been a long time." "7 years," Mom replied. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Not since the wedding." They stood there staring at each other, and I could feel the weight of history between them. Things unsaid, old wounds. Then Dante's eyes found me, peeking out from behind a display of roses. His entire face changed. The hard, dangerous look melted away, replaced by something gentler. He knelt down, bringing himself to my eye level. "You must be Sophie," he said. "I'm Dante. Your dad and we were brothers." I stepped forward slowly. "You look different from the picture." He smiled, but it was sad. "That picture was taken 15 years ago. We were young and stupid and thought we were invincible." The smile faded. We were wrong. Dante stood and turned to Mom. "Angela, we need to talk. About Vincent, about what he asked me to do, about what I should have done 6 months ago." Mom nodded, wiping her eyes. "Sophie, honey, why don't you go upstairs?" "No." Dante's voice was firm but kind. "She should hear this. She's the reason I'm here. She's the one who was brave enough to call me when you needed help. She deserves to know the truth." Mom looked uncertain, but finally nodded. Dante pulled out one of the shop's small chairs and sat down, gesturing for us to do the same. When we were all seated, he began to speak. "Vincent and I met when we were 12 years old," he started. "We were both street kids, orphans, trying to survive in a city that didn't care if we lived or died. We made a pact, brothers forever, no matter what. We'd protect each other, watch each other's backs, build something together." He paused, his jaw tightening. "We did build something, but the thing we built, it wasn't legal. We were young and ambitious, and we didn't care about rules. We became powerful, dangerous. People feared us." I leaned forward. "What did you build?" Dante looked at me for a long moment. "An empire, Sophie. A criminal empire. Your father and we ran this entire city. We controlled the docks, the gambling, the protection. We were what people call the Mafia." The word hung in the air. Mafia. I'd heard it in movies, but never thought it was real. Never thought someone like Dante, who looked so normal, so human, could be part of something like that. Mom wasn't surprised. I could tell by her face that she already knew. Vincent left that world, she said quietly. When he met me, he left all of it behind. He did, Dante confirmed, and I was furious. I felt betrayed. We'd built everything together, and he just walked away. For you, for a chance at a normal life. He looked at Mom. I didn't speak to him for 2 years after he left. My pride, my anger, it was too much. But you made up, I said, thinking of the photo. The picture. You both looked happy. Dante nodded. We did. Vincent reached out when you were born, Sophie. He sent me a photo of you, just a tiny baby, and a note that said, I want my daughter to know her uncle. Can we start over? Dante's voice cracked. How could I say no to that? So we buried the past. We became brothers again. Not in business, just in life. I visited you a few times when you were little, though you probably don't remember. I shook my head. I didn't remember. And then Vincent got sick, Dante continued, and he pushed me away again, said he didn't want his old life touching his new one. Didn't want my dirty money paying for his treatment. We fought about it. Our last conversation was a fight. His hands clenched into fists. And then he jumped. And I never got to say I was sorry. Never got to tell him that he was right, that the life we'd built was poison, and he was smart to walk away from it. Tears were rolling down Dante's face now. This powerful, dangerous man was crying in my mother's flower shop. But before he died, Dante said, pulling out a folded piece of paper from his jacket, he wrote me a letter. I didn't find it until 2 weeks after the funeral. It had been sitting in my office the whole time, and I'd been too angry to notice. He unfolded the paper with shaking hands and began to read. Dante, my brother, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I know you're angry at me for refusing your help. I know you think I'm being stubborn and proud. Maybe I am. But I can't let you spend your money on a lost cause. The doctors gave me 6 months, maybe less. The cancer is everywhere. But this isn't a letter about my death. It's a letter about my life, the life you helped me build. Not the criminal life, but the real one. The one with Angela and Sophie. The one I got to have because you let me walk away. I'm asking you for one last favor, brother. Watch over them. If anything happens, if they need help, be there. Be the man I know you are underneath all the power and fear. Be the kid I met when we were 12, the one who shared his last piece of bread with a stranger because it was the right thing to do. You're still in that life, Dante. I know you are, and I won't judge you for it. But promise me this. Don't let that life touch my family. Keep them safe. Keep them clean. Let Sophie grow up never knowing what her father used to be. What her uncle still is. I love you, brother. Always. Vincent. The shop was silent, except for the sound of Mom's quiet crying. Dante carefully refolded the letter and tucked it back into his jacket, right over his heart. I failed him, Dante said quietly. For 6 months, I failed him. I was so caught up in my anger, my grief, that I forgot about the promise. And then yesterday, a 7-year-old girl called me and reminded me what really mattered. He looked at me. You're brave, Sophie. Just like your dad. And I'm going to keep the promise I made to him. You and your mother will never want for anything again. We don't need charity, Mom said quickly. We just need help with the debt. The debt is gone, Dante interrupted. I had a conversation with Mr. Kozlov last night, a very thorough conversation. He's decided to forgive your debt entirely and retire from the collection business, permanently. The way he said retire made it sound like Mr. Kozlov hadn't had much choice in the matter. But that's not enough, Dante continued. Vincent asked me to watch over you. That means more than just solving one problem. Angela, I'm buying this building. You'll own the shop outright, no rent, no mortgage. And I'm setting up a trust fund for Sophie's education. College, graduate school, whatever she wants. Mom's eyes went wide. Dante, that's too much. It's not enough, Dante said firmly. It will never be enough to make up for 6 months of breaking my promise to my brother. Please, let me do this. Mom looked at me, then back at Dante. I could see her pride warring with her practicality. We needed help. She knew it. I knew it. Finally, she nodded. Okay, but on one condition. Name it. Sophie deserves to know her uncle. Really know him. Not just as the man who helped us, but as the person Vincent loved like a brother. Mom's voice was firm. I know what you do, Dante. I'm not naive, but Vincent saw something good in you. Something worth loving. I want Sophie to see that too. Dante looked surprised, then grateful. I'd like that. Very much. That's how Dante Romano became part of our lives. At first he visited once a month, then every other week. Then eventually Sunday dinners became a regular thing. He never talked about his business around me. But I wasn't stupid. I saw the bodyguards who were always nearby. The way people's faces changed when they recognized him in public. The phone calls he'd take in hushed voices, stepping away to handle situations. But with me, he was just Uncle Dante. He taught me to play chess, helped me with math homework, attended every school play and recital, sitting in the front row with a bouquet of flowers that probably cost more than the entire production. And slowly, the sadness in his eyes began to fade. 5 years passed. I was 12 now, old enough to understand more about the world, old enough to piece together what Uncle Dante really did for a living. One Sunday after dinner, I found him standing in our shop, staring at the photo of him and Dad, the same one I'd found the phone number on. I'd framed it and hung it on the wall. "Do you miss him?" I asked quietly. Dante didn't turn around. "Every single day." "Do you think he'd be proud of you for keeping your promise?" Dante was quiet for a long moment. "I'd like to think so, but I also think he'd want me to do more than just keep you and your mother safe. He'd want me to be better, to be the man he thought I could be." "What kind of man is that?" Dante finally turned to look at me. "An honest one, a good one. The kind of man who doesn't need bodyguards and fear to be respected." "Are you going to leave the Mafia?" I asked directly. I was old enough now to say the word without flinching. Dante's laugh was bitter. "It's not that simple, Sophie. The life I've lived, the things I've done, you don't just walk away from that. People don't let you. Dad did. Your father was braver than me." I walked over and took his hand. It was rough, scarred. Hands that had done things I probably didn't want to know about, but to me, they were just Uncle Dante's hands. The ones that taught me to ride a bike. The ones that wiped my tears when I fell. "You're brave too," I said. "You came when I called. When you didn't have to. When you probably had a million other things to do. You came because Dad asked you to." "That's brave." Dante squeezed my hand. "You know what, kid? You're right. And you know what else? You're too smart for your own good. Just like your father." He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Marco, clear my schedule for tomorrow. I'm making some changes. Big ones." I didn't know what that meant at the time. But over the next year, I watched Uncle Dante slowly transform his empire. He got out of the worst parts, the violence, the drugs, the extortion. He invested in legitimate businesses, real estate, construction, import-export operations that were actually legal. It wasn't easy. He lost allies, made enemies. There were threats, attempts on his life, but through it all, he kept coming to Sunday dinners, kept checking on me and Mom, kept his promise to Dad. By the time I turned 13, Dante Romano was technically clean. Oh, people still called him a mafia boss. The reputation stuck, but he'd built something new on top of the old foundation, something he could be proud of. "I did it," he told me on my 13th birthday, taking me out for ice cream while Mom set up my party. "I got out, really out. Your father would be proud." "I'm proud," I said. "You're a good man, Uncle Dante." He smiled. "I'm trying to be. Your father showed me it was possible, and you remind me every day why it matters." That night, at my birthday party, Dante pulled out a small box. Inside was a locket with a picture of Dad on one side and a picture of Dante on the other. "Your father and I made a promise when we were 12, Dante explained. "Brothers forever, no matter what." He kept that promise, even when I didn't deserve it. And now I'm making that same promise to you, Sophie. Whatever you need, wherever you go, whatever you do with your life, I'll be there. Always. I hugged him tight. "Thank you for keeping your promise to Dad. Thank you for saving us." "No, kid." Dante's voice was thick with emotion. "Thank you for saving me. That phone call you made when you were 7, it didn't just help your mother. It reminded me who I was supposed to be. It gave me a reason to change." Mom joined the hug, and for a moment, we were a family. Not a traditional one maybe, but a real one. Later that night, as I was getting ready for bed, I found Mom looking at the framed photo of Dad and Dante. "Do you think Dad knew?" I asked. "When he gave me that number, do you think he knew what would happen?" Mom smiled. "Your father was the smartest man I ever knew. He understood people in a way most of us never could. He knew that Dante needed saving just as much as we did. He knew that one little girl's phone call could change everything." I'm glad I called, I said. Me too, baby. Me too. I'm 18 now, about to graduate high school. Uncle Dante is sitting in the front row, just like always, with the biggest bouquet of flowers in the entire auditorium. Next to him is Mom, crying happy tears. When they call my name as valedictorian, I walk across the stage and look out at the sea of faces. And I think about that scared 7-year-old girl who dialed a stranger's number because her father told her to trust him. I think about the Mafia boss who answered that call and had his entire world turned upside down by a child's voice. I think about promises kept and lives changed and the power of one moment of bravery. In my valedictorian speech, I don't mention Uncle Dante by name. But everyone who knows our story understands who I'm talking about when I say, sometimes the people who seem the most lost are just waiting for someone to show them the way home. My father taught me that. He taught me that everyone deserves a second chance, that redemption is always possible, that love and loyalty can change even the hardest hearts. I look directly at Uncle Dante. He's crying, not even trying to hide it. 6 years ago, I made a phone call that changed my life, but it also changed someone else's life. It reminded a powerful man that power isn't what matters, that promises do, that family isn't always about blood, it's about showing up. After the ceremony, Uncle Dante picks me up and spins me around like I'm 7 again. You did it, kid. Valedictorian, full ride to college, your dad would be so proud. He'd be proud of you too, I say. Look how far you've come. Dante sets me down and looks at Mom, then at me. I need to tell you both something. I've been waiting for the right time, and I think this is it. We find a quiet corner of the auditorium. Dante takes a deep breath. I'm getting out completely, he says. Selling everything, all of it, the businesses, the properties, everything that was ever connected to the old life. I'm starting over, clean slate, new name if I have to. Mom's eyes widen. Dante, you don't have to. Yes, I do, he interrupts. Sophie's going to college in the fall. She's going to make something of herself, something real and good and honest, and I want to be the kind of man she can be proud to call her uncle. Not a reformed criminal, not a mafia boss trying to go legitimate, just a good man. He looks at me. Your father gave up everything for love, for family, for the chance to be better. It's time I did the same. What will you do? I ask. Dante smiles. I'm going to do what I should have done 20 years ago. I'm going to build something that helps people instead of hurting them. I'm thinking, a foundation. For kids like your father and me were, street kids, orphans, kids who need a second chance. He pulls out a piece of paper, architectural drawings. I'm going to build a community center, in the neighborhood where Vincent and I grew up. Give kids a safe place to go, programs, education, mentorship, everything we never had. Mom starts crying again. Vincent would love that. I'm going to call it the Vincent Clarke Center for Youth Development, Dante says, if that's okay with you both. I can't speak. I just nod through my tears. 3 years later, I'm standing at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Vincent Clarke Center. It's a beautiful building. Modern, bright, welcoming. Everything my father would have wanted. Uncle Dante stands next to me with the oversized scissors. The press is here. Community leaders, politicians. Everyone wants to be associated with Dante Romano's redemption story. But I know the truth. This isn't a redemption story. It's a love story. A story about 2 12-year-old boys who promised to be brothers forever. About one of those boys who found a better path and left breadcrumbs for the other to follow. About a little girl who made a phone call and reminded a lost man why promises matter. I want to say something before we cut this ribbon. Dante announces to the crowd. This center exists because of 2 people. The first is Vincent Clarke, my brother in every way that mattered. He showed me that change is possible, that you're never too far gone to find your way back. He looks at me. The second person is Sophie Clarke. When she was 7 years old, she did the bravest thing I've ever seen. She reached out to a stranger, a dangerous stranger, and asked for help. And in doing so, she saved not just her family, but me too. He hands me the scissors. Sophie, would you do the honors? As I cut the ribbon and the crowd applauds, I think about that phone call 6 years ago. How scared I was. How desperate. I think about the deep, dangerous voice that answered. The man who thought I was a scammer. The mafia boss who almost hung up on a 7-year-old girl. And I think about how one moment of connection can ripple out and change everything. That evening, just the three of us, me, Mom, and Uncle Dante, sit in Mom's flower shop. It's tradition now. After every major milestone, we come back here, to where it all began. Uncle Dante pulls out the old photo, the one with the phone number on the back. He's had it framed now, professionally restored. I want you to have this, Sophie, he says, handing it to me. For when you have kids of your own someday. Tell them about their grandfather. Tell them about the promise he made and the promise I kept. I will, I say, clutching the frame. But Uncle Dante, the story isn't over yet. You've still got a lot of years to make new promises, new memories. He laughs. You're right. And you know what my next promise is? What? I promise to walk you down the aisle when you get married. Since your father can't be there, I want to be. Fresh tears spring to my eyes. He'd like that. He'd like that a lot. Mom raises her glass of wine. To Vincent, who saw the best in everyone, even when they couldn't see it in themselves. To Vincent, Dante echoes, raising his water glass. He doesn't drink anymore. Another change. Another promise kept. To Dad, I add, raising my soda. And to second chances. We clink glasses, and in that moment, I feel Dad's presence. Not in a spooky way, just there, like he's been watching all along. Like he knew exactly what would happen when he gave a 7-year-old girl a phone number and told her to call if she ever needed help. He knew Dante needed that call just as much as we did. 5 more years pass. I'm 23 now, fresh out of college with a degree in social work. I'm engaged to a wonderful man named Thomas, and Uncle Dante is indeed walking me down the aisle in 3 months. But today, I'm at the Vincent Clarke Center, starting my first day as the new program director. Uncle Dante offered me the job 6 months ago, and I jumped at the chance. You sure about this? He asks as we walk through the bustling center. Kids everywhere, laughing, learning, playing. You could have taken that corporate job, triple the salary. I'm sure, I say. Dad spent his whole life trying to make up for his mistakes. The least I can do is honor that by helping kids avoid making those same mistakes. Uncle Dante stops and looks around, his eyes shining. He really would be so proud of you, Sophie. You know that, right? I know, and he'd be proud of you too. Look what you built. Look at all these kids who have a chance because of you. A small boy, maybe 7 years old, runs up to us. Mr. Romano, I got an A on my math test, my first A ever. Dante kneels down, a huge smile on his face. That's amazing, Marcus. I knew you could do it. What did I tell you? That I'm smarter than I think I am, Marcus recites, and that giving up is the only real failure. Exactly right. Dante ruffles the kid's hair. Now go show Mrs. Chen your test. She's going to be so excited. As Marcus runs off, I see tears in Uncle Dante's eyes. You okay? I ask. Yeah, he says, voice thick. I was just thinking, what if someone had given Vincent and me a place like this when we were kids? Maybe we never would have turned to crime. Maybe we'd have had a different life. Maybe, I agree, but then I wouldn't exist, and you wouldn't be here, changing lives. Everything happens for a reason, Uncle Dante. Even the painful things. He pulls me into a hug. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. 2 of them, actually. That night, I'm at home sorting through wedding plans when my phone rings. Unknown number. I almost don't answer, but something makes me pick up. Hello? Is this Sophie Clarke? A young woman's voice, nervous and shaky. Yes, this is she. Who's calling? My name is Isabella Kozlov. I think you know my father. Or knew him. I freeze. Kozlov, the man who'd threatened my mother all those years ago. The man Uncle Dante had convinced to retire. I'm listening, I say carefully. My father died 2 months ago, Isabella continues. Cancer. Before he died, he told me something. About a debt he forgave. About a little girl who called someone very dangerous and changed everything. She takes a shaky breath. He said he deserved what happened to him, that he'd spent his life hurting people, taking from them, making them afraid. But when he met Dante Romano that night, Mr. Romano explained why he was forgiving our debt. My father said it was the first time in his life he felt true fear. Not fear of violence, fear of divine judgment. I don't know what to say. Mr. Romano told my father that a 7-year-old girl had more courage than both of them combined, Isabella says. That if a child could be brave enough to ask for help, my father could be brave enough to become a better man. And he did. He retired. gave his money to charity, spent his last years trying to make amends. She's crying now. I just wanted you to know, that phone call you made, it didn't just save your family, it saved my father's soul. Thank you. The line goes dead. I sit there stunned as the full weight of that long-ago moment settles over me. One phone call. One desperate, terrified 7-year-old girl calling a number on the back of a photo. And look at the ripples. Look at the lives changed. Not just mine. Not just Uncle Dante's. But Mr. Kozlov, Isabella. All the kids at the Vincent Clarke Center. Everyone those kids will go on to help and inspire. All from one phone call. I think about Dad's letter to Dante. About promises kept. About being the person you were meant to be, even when it's hard. I think about Uncle Dante, who could have hung up on that 7-year-old. Who could have stayed in his violent criminal world. But didn't. Because a child's voice reminded him of something he'd forgotten. Who he used to be, and who he could still become. I think about Mom, who could have refused Dante's help out of pride, who could have kept us separated from Dad's old world. But didn't, because she understood that family is about forgiveness and second chances. And I think about 7-year-old me, standing in a broken shop with a stranger's phone number, choosing to be brave. My wedding day arrives. Uncle Dante stands beside me in the small room where I'm getting ready, looking sharp in his tuxedo. You ready, kid? He asks. I take a deep breath. I'm ready. But Uncle Dante, before we go out there, I need to tell you something. What's that? Thank you for answering the phone, for coming when we needed you, for keeping your promise to Dad, for becoming the man he always knew you could be. Dante's eyes fill with tears. Sophie, I should be thanking you. You saved my life. You gave me a purpose. You showed me that it's never too late to change. We saved each other, I say, taking his arm, just like Dad knew we would. The music starts. Uncle Dante and I walk down the aisle together. I see Thomas waiting for me at the altar, smiling through happy tears. I see Mom in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. I see all my friends from the Vincent Clarke Center, kids who've become like family. And in the back, I swear I see a shadow that looks like Dad. Just for a moment. Just long enough to feel his presence, his approval, his love. When we reach the altar, the officiant asks who gives this woman to be married. Uncle Dante's voice is strong and clear. Her mother and I do. Along with her father, Vincent Clarke, whose love and wisdom brought us all together. He places my hand in Thomas's, then leans in to whisper in my ear. Your father would be so proud. I love you, kid. Always. I love you too, Uncle Dante. Always. As he takes his seat next to Mom, as the ceremony begins, I think about the journey that brought us here. From a broken flower shop to this moment. From fear and desperation to love and family. All because of one phone call. All because a dying man left a breadcrumb trail for the people he loved. All because a 7-year-old girl was brave enough to follow it. 10 years later, I'm back at the Vincent Clarke Center with my 6-year-old daughter Emma. She looks just like Dad, everyone says. Same eyes, same smile, same quiet intelligence. Uncle Dante, now in his late 50s with gray at his temples, is teaching a chess class. He's slowed down some, but his mind is as sharp as ever. The kids adore him. Emma tugs my hand. Mommy, can I ask Uncle Dante a question? Of course, sweetie. She runs over and taps his shoulder. Uncle Dante, Mommy says you and Grandpa Vincent were best friends. What was he like? Dante's face softens. He picks Emma up and sets her on his knee. Your grandfather was the bravest, kindest man I ever knew. He taught me that it's never too late to choose a better path. That family isn't about blood, it's about showing up. And that sometimes, the smallest people can change the biggest lives. He looks at me over Emma's head and smiles. Just like your mommy did when she was your age. What did Mommy do? Emma asks, eyes wide. She saved my life, Dante says simply, with one phone call. Emma considers this. Was she scared? Terrified, but she did it anyway. That's what makes someone brave, not the absence of fear, but doing the right thing despite it. Emma nods solemnly. I want to be brave like Mommy, and like Grandpa Vincent. You will be, Dante assures her, because you come from a family of brave people, and brave is in your blood. That night, as I tuck Emma into bed, she asks me to tell her the story. The real story. About the phone call, the Mafia boss, the promise kept. I pull out the framed photo, the one with Dad and Uncle Dante, young and happy, with that phone number on the back. This, I tell my daughter, is a story about love, about promises, about second chances, and about how one moment of bravery can change everything. As I tell the story, I realize something profound. This isn't just my story anymore. It's a legacy. One that will be passed down through generations. A reminder that we all have the power to change lives, sometimes with grand gestures, but often with simple acts of courage. One phone call, one promise kept, one life saved, and in saving that life, countless others transformed. That's the power of love. The power of family. The power of keeping your word. And it all started with a 7-year-old girl, a broken shop, and a stranger's number written on the back of an old photograph. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the crumpled photo. Behind me, Mom's shop was in chaos, broken glass everywhere, men shouting about money we didn't have. I was 7 years old, and I just dialed the only number Dad ever told me to call in an emergency.